ไม่ได้ยินเสียงอะไรเลยนะคะ
สวัสดีครับอาจารย์ครับได้ยินเสียงอาจารย์ครับ
อ๋อได้ยินแล้วนะคะค่ะ
ได้ยินแล้วครับ
เขาเข้าชั้นกันหรือยังคะ
ครับท่านอาจารย์ครับ Hi คุณแอน Good morning Alberto
สวัสดีค่ะท่านอา
ครั
จา
บ
รย์ everyone
Shall we start
สวัสดีครับอาจารย์
Yes
สวัสดีครับสวัสดีครับ
I just received a message from Sarah on DSG and she said she has difficulty logging in คุณแอม
Roti has had the same problem, can't get in.
Sawadika. Hello, everybody.
Hello, Azita. I don't know why Roti can't get in. I wonder why. Why do you think that is, Anne?
I don't know. Sarah and Jonathan can't get in either.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, I just got messages from them.
There you go. Conditions, of course, and we tend to forget that sometimes all these things happen. No doubt time will resolve it.
I hope so. I'll just.
I have it going in.
No, I was going to say I'll just contact Roti and Sarah and Jonathan offline here. You go ahead with your.
Okay, I have a question or comment that came out of Saturday's discussion, Ajahn, and it was a discussion about pain being felt, but only, pardon me, but only for a very brief moment, and then, but pain appears to last for a long time. But Sarah said something like, after the pain is experienced by that citta, then there's mind or processes. So the actual pain has become Nimita. And so even though we think we're in pain for a while, that's not necessarily the case. Can you talk a little bit about that, please, Ajahn?
First of all, I think that we have to understand what is meant by Nimita. See, without the reality at all, can there be Nimita? Impossible. But since the reality, no matter what, Rupa, Cetasika, or Citta, arises and falls away in split seconds. That's why even just one cannot be realized at all, because after this one has fallen away, there are conditions for the other one to arise instantly. Without seeing or hearing the shape and form of that which arises and falls away in split seconds, no matter who, can there be Nimita? No experiencing at all of that which appears. Can there be any Nimita to be seen or heard, smelled or touched? That's why we have to understand what is Nimita. Without reality arising and falling away, there cannot be Nimita. Nibbana doesn't have Nimita. See, that's why what is now appearing in truth, it is not what it looks or heard or touched as it is. Only the very, very tiny minute particle arising and falling away, unknown, until the succession of that reality again and again and again. So it conditioned the idea from shape and form, or the way it appears as something. Even seeing right now. Seeing is that which is now sees. What is the truth of it? The moment of that which arises and experiences it. If it's not experienced, how can there be anything appearing at all right now? Impossible. That's why what we see or smell or touch is only the nimitta, the succession of that which arises and falls away. Appear as only it. For example, seeing is only seeing, but not just one seeing. Hearing now hears, but it's not one moment of hearing. Reality arises and falls away. No one can imagine how rapidly it is from moment to moment. That's why we learn to understand what is nimitta. Without reality at all, there cannot be any nimitta. But since that which arises and falls away by conditions, so very short, that's why the succession of one characteristic of a reality, while in truth there must be the other reality in between. What we see as the permanent seeing never arise, never fall away at all. But in truth, there are not just seeing moments. There are moments before seeing, after seeing, and mind process, and on and on and on. That's why no one can know if Buddha didn't realize the truth, and he taught the truth just to be known as the truth is this. It doesn't matter who would like to understand it or to know the truth or not. It doesn't matter at all. All depends on conditions, but the truth is the truth. That's why even a reality, no matter the seeing or the hearing, now appears, but there are moments of arising and falling away of each characteristic in between the other reality arising, but it's not known. For example, right now, as soon as one wakes up, the reality which experiences is there, but ignorance cannot understanding it as it has a reason. So it appears as one has awakened already. See, that's why we live in the world of ignorance and take everything for very permanent reality or no understanding of reality, things and people all around in the world. And that is not true at all. That's why the Buddha, the Tathagata, came to realize, has come to realize the truth of this very moment, to open it up, to reveal the truth. What is there is a reality. If it doesn't arise at all, can it be there as the object? And when it's seen, there must be the reality which experiences it. Know what is there, but not as it is, not just one single particle reality arising and falling away. So the truth is now, only now. And when there's no understanding of any reality, it's impossible to realize the absolute truth, the arising and falling away of what is there now. That's why right understanding begins to understand how enormously the ignorance has been accumulated with attachment to be attached as soon as that appears. But even we use the word as soon as, the Buddha taught about many moments of the reality which experiences until it's seen. So what is there appearing in life from birth to death? What appears is only the nimitta of a reality. And when they are together with different shape and form, there is not just nimitta of a reality, but also nimitta of something, like people and things. For example, Kun Ashita now sees someone. What is seen is not someone. It's not anything. It's only that which is seen, until right understanding is strong enough to let go the idea of people and things. So it attends to the reality which is there. And when it's more understanding, it arises directly to the truth, the characteristic, the nature of that, which just arises or experience or not experience. That's all in one's life. And this is life eons and eons ago. Never changed to be permanent. Well, nothing now is not permanent, who knows? But the truth is the truth. So Nimita of a single reality, when it appears, but no one experiences the arising and falling away, the impermanency of that reality. That's why what is taken is things and people with shape and form. That's why there has to be the clear understanding of what is meant by Nimita. Otherwise, no one knows how much ignorance is there, not understanding anything from birth to death, even right now. What is there? That's why learning to understand the teaching just about what is there now, so very close as one takes it for oneself or things right now, to be known that actually what is what only when it appears. When it's gone, there is the idea and thinking about it as something. But in truth, what is there? When it's not there, it's gone completely, never to arise again. Otherwise, there cannot be the understanding of the truth of this very moment. That it's not there anymore. That's why the path leading to the realization of the truth of what is there right now, anytime, anything in life has to be developed with confidence of the truth of that which just appears when it's there, and no more when it's gone and when it's not there. The other reality arises unknown because attachment is the attachment to that which has gone, but it is kept in mind as something permanent, as me or thing. Otherwise, there cannot be the letting go of the idea of self completely, absolutely, never to arise again. Is there any question about Nimita?
Yes, I have some more questions. So I've been thinking that Nimita is just that which is seen, heard, tasted, smelt, touched. But can Jeta seekers also have Nimita?
Everything arising and falling away in split seconds. But the Chitta and Cetasika arises more rapidly than the Rupa. But what appears, no matter it is Chitta, any kind, Rupa, any kind, Cetasika, any kind, appears as the Nimitta of that reality, because nothing can be realized when it's just a single one. Because as soon as this one has fallen away, for example, Chitta, after birth consciousness has fallen away, the next moment has to be Pavanka, life continuum by Dhamma, the same Dhamma. Nobody can change. That's why we learn to understand the truth of what is there now from birth to death. Otherwise, there cannot be the understanding of what is life and what is the world and what is taken for I or thing. Just learn to understand what is there. That's the point. If one wishes to experience Nibbana, it's so far away. Even as soon as Panya is there, it can be Lokuttara Panya, understand what is there now, so close as it is. Even it's so close, it's far away from right understanding. Right understanding is so far until it gets closer and closer to understand what is said is just about what appears now.
So when does nimitta become concept? Or how does that work? I mean, I would think that there's a lot of concepts going on. So is nimitta the cause of concepts? Well, originally the arising and falling of realities would.
Now,
Sorry, Achan, go ahead.
yes. Now everything arises and falls away unknowingly, right?
Yes.
Okay, but the truth is that what appears, if Buddha didn't teach about the way it arises and falls away, like citta, at moment of birth and pavanka, life continuum, it does not experience the object of this world. That's why nothing appears. Even that which arises and falls away, experience and object is not known, because the object of experiencing is not there to be known, because it's not the object of this world. See, so one begin to understand how come to see, to hear. There must be cittas before seeing and cittas after seeing. At that moment, no nimitta, no idea, because seeing just sees. Its function is just arise and to see, that's all. And as soon as it has arisen, it falls away instantly because it has seen that which appears now. So the seeing, even we're talking about it, how many moments of seeing, not shape and form of things which is seen, but the seeing, the reality which experiences an object. When it's known, how many moments? No, nobody can count it. No need to count it, but to understand that it is just a reality, not me at all. But since ignorance is there, when whatever arises and experience, no one there at all. It's only moment of seeing right now, experiencing an object. So the idea of self is there at moment of seeing, because nobody, no one is there at all, only seeing. So what can it be? It's me who sees. Now hearing, no one there, but there is hearing. So the hearing is I hear, because not understanding the reality which is conditioned to arise, to experience an object. That's what we call Dhamma. But we can talk about more of whatever is there, because even the word Dhamma has not just only one meaning. Just learn to understand little by little of the truth. Otherwise, it's only just like any story has been heard as this story about this person and thing, and many, many things about cooking and so on, but no word about the truth of what is there until hearing the teachings about it from the enlightened one. That's why it's the beginning of understanding whether it's worthwhile. It's so very precious from ignorance, so far away from the truth, to begin to understand what is there as it is before death, before to die without any understanding of whatever is now appearing at all. It doesn't hurt at all. Just hear and then consider carefully, wisely, what is the truth? Can it be changed? The moment of birth is not the moment of death. And one day there must be that very moment. We call it death. But it's the function of the reality which arises by karma to end up, not to be that person anymore after that very moment of death. But the new one, see, next one is there, conditioned by what has been accumulated from years and also in this life. Unknown, because there are so many conditions for everything to be then, not now. Now there are conditions for seeing, hearing, thinking, understanding. No one there at all. That's why study the truth to understand the truth, as realities cannot be taken for anything, because as soon as it has a reason, it's gone instantly, completely, absolutely, never to arise again. When the truth is the truth, and the truth can be directly experienced by understanding more and more, that is the way to let go the clinging to the idea of self. Otherwise, there must be more clinging, on and on and on. Cannot get away from the samsara, from life, just seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking. That's all, no matter where and when. Wrongly, without understanding. So there can be moment of thinking. Is there someone or I now at moment of seeing? Because there is seeing. At moment of thinking, there can be a moment of considering what is there as it is. Thinking is thinking. That is the truth. And it falls away, and it's conditioned to arise again, and then falls away again. Not the same one at all. So one lives in the world of Nimita, the world of the reality arising and falling away in succession. So very, very rapidly, unexpectedly, cannot imagine at all. The truth is just the truth. At moment of realizing the truth, it let go the idea of self, stage by stage, until the moment of enlightenment, the Four Noble Truths all fall. That's why now we learn to understand the truth, the first noble truth. What is there? Not permanent. Just when it's there, and even it's there, the arising and falling away in succession, as we take it for something with some shape and form, it's not a single moment. It's gone from moment to moment. Only one moment in lifetime, arising and falling away continuously. As long as there are conditions for whatever arises, it has to arise. That's why beginning to let go the idea of self, because there's no self, no one, no I, no me, no thing. Otherwise, there cannot be letting go little by little of wrong understanding of that which now takes what is there as something and someone. Any more question about Nimita?
Oh, probably a lot.
I have a question.
Okay, go on.
Does Nimita arise and fall?
What is Nimita again? Without the reality, which is conditioned to arise, nobody can stop the arising of that particular one, because it has arisen by conditions. But since there's no understanding of conditions and the reality, which is conditioned to arise and then fall away, without that, can there be Nimita? And if there is no reality which can experience, can there be Nimita? So Nimita is not real, but it's the shape and form of that which arises and falls away so very rapidly. So it appears as something like now. Seeing is there, appears as seeing. What is seen is there, appears as what is seen. But in truth, the seeing which sees now is not just only single moment. One single moment is impossible. So it sees, no one knows the moments, the processes of seeing and then minder and the wanker in between until it appears as it sees something, not only that which is seen. Some people use the word color. It doesn't matter at all what word is used, but that can be seen. And when it's just a single moment of seeing, it cannot appear what is seen, cannot appear as things with shape and form at all. That's why without that which experiences it as shape and form, what we say for shape and form is nimitta, of seeing, of hearing, of that which is seen. Because for the seeing itself, even it performs a function of seeing, but there are many different conditions for that very single moment of seeing, for the old age, for the young one, for the baby, and so on. That's why only by conditions appears as I cannot see as clear as before, see? But seeing performs a function of seeing, but the nimitta of that, which is different from when one was young and so on. That's why nimitta is the idea, taking that which appears as something. Even the enlightened one, Asotapanna, Sakatagami, and even Arahanta, cannot change the way it is nimitta, to be seen, to be heard, and so on. But no doubt, no suspicious about what is there at all, because right understanding begins and develops on and on until the truth revealed appears well to the highly developed panya. So we can understand that even panya has many different degrees. And it is panya at moment of being aware of what is there with understanding. Otherwise, someone might repeat, remember, memorize the word, but no understanding of what is there.
So that means nimitta is a concept, right?
Because it is experienced by our reality, citta and cetasika, which sees, and then after that, the idea is there to seeing, to the citta and cetasika. After seeing.
So is it a concept, nimitta? Yes, because it's not a reality, right?
That's why we understand each word like there must be reality, and the arising and falling away of the realities are so very rapidly. That's why what appears is the nimitta of reality, unreality, or the idea of it. For example, what appears is different right now. And then the idea which marks and remembers it, made known of something that as leaf, a flower, or a stem, branch. Right. That is the concept made known as something. It makes known as it is something. That is panyati. That's why there must be reality and then nimitta and then panyati. Does a snake have panyati?
What again? Does what?
Does a snake, a bird, have nimitta and panyati?
No nimitta is panyati.
So it cannot live. It doesn't know what is what. The worm or the food is not known. But there are two kinds of panyati. Atta panyati, even there's no word, but it's known from experiencing shape and form and remember it as something, made it known as a worm or something. That is panyati. It is atta, the meaning of that nimitta. Another panyati is satta nimitta, and satta is the sound or the voice. That's why we understand by the sound or the voice. When we talk about citta, see, it is satta panyati. In Pali, it is satta panyati, but in the other language, it depends on what word is there, represent that reality. That's why no matter we talk about whether it's the nimitta of the real reality, or just the what we take it for something, it doesn't matter. But the fact is that there are two kinds mainly. One is the atta banyati, no word. The bird cannot talk. It cannot teach its baby to understand what is what. But by way of nimitta, it knows, made known by that appearance as maybe talking or learning to understand what is there, as it is. Like baby, the same. See, newly born baby. There is seeing and there is nimitta. There's no word, but little by little, it takes the meaning from that to be parents, mother or father or whatever is there. So concept is that which citta, at moment when citta knows what is there as something, shape and form in things, concept of that reality from the nimitta of the succession of the arising and falling way of a reality. And then we have to use word too. Bird has its own, I don't know, like birds or not, but it has its own voice or sound. Snake too. When someone is there, we can hear the sound from it. No word, but there can be panyati and nimitta of that sound, so that one can be frightened hearing that sound. That's why there are two kinds, mainly the atta nimitta, understanding what it means, concept about it, and sound. Even there's no seeing. As soon as one hears some words, there can be the understanding of the meaning of that word. Sattha nimitta. Sattha banyati. So reality and the rapidity of the arising and falling away, condition nimitta, and the banyati take that nimitta for something known as a bird or cat, food or shoes. That's why the Tathagata has come to realize the truth of what is there now from moment to moment. As it is as no thing, no one, because everything which has arisen has gone completely, never to arise again. In samsara, not just only in this life or today. Otherwise, without the clear comprehension of the truth, it's impossible to let go of ignorance and attachment to whatever is there now appearing. So the path is the path of panya with khanti, satya, virya, atidana, confidence, and nekama, let go. Ignorance, stage by stage. And it does not disturb the daily life at all. If one has very pleasant moment, it's true. But panya, if no understanding, it's avijja. But even it's a right understanding developed to understand the truth. Someone would say, I would like not to have desire or attachment at all. Just like that way. See, attachment is there already unknown. That's why only panya, a reality, new life, new accumulation, different ones from lives in the past, in eons ago, and even from now to the future too. How long? Who knows? All depends on conditions. To understand what is best in this life or any life is the understanding of the truth. Because no matter one like to live this way or that way, it has to come to the end, not by one's will, but by conditions, Dhamma, which condition how long this life will be. And there are so many different conditions too for everything. And who can count what is there in a day? It's only the arising and falling away of dhammas, uncountable. Only that, only that. To understand the truth is the best thing because it doesn't hurt at all. But it conditions moment of less and less dukkha, unpleasant feeling, or whatever is there, even what is so rich. But there can be understanding that it's only in this life and it's not now, because there is only seeing for everyone, no matter who that person is, rich or poor, the same. That can condition more metta to be friendly to all living. That's why the teachings of the Buddha can be studied at any time of any reality, which is now, to understand better and better, clearer and clearer, as no one there, to condition moment of direct understanding of what is there just right now. Very natural, by conditions, unexpectedly, all the time.
So, Ajahn, could we assume that most of the time, most of the day, there's attachment?
Certainly, because what about the asava? See, latent tendency is anusaya. It's there ready for asava to arise after 3 moments after seeing. Seeing is 1 moment, it's gone. The next one is sampatitana, the receiving consciousness. And next one is samtirana. And next one is votapana. And then kamasava, pavasava, avicchasava, or diddhasava. By conditions, who knows even right now. That's why it seems like there is I all the time, because there is seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, or thinking. See? Because of it's there at the moment of experiencing the 5 senses. It's there already. And now how many senses are there in between Bhavanga and the mind of process? In between. No one can imagine how the true world is. Not just like the world of Nimita, like now. What is there? What is the truth of this moment? Only one doorway can experience that which is seen. So there are other doorway, mind door, more than sense door. So the world, when it appears as it is, it's dark, completely darker than the blind, than what we can imagine. The blind can hurt, but the moment when reality, which is not that which is seen, is there. The world is dark. And Panya understand the truth. No one and no thing. Only through the sense door, the eyebrow process, there is that which is seen so very, very rapidly. Because from one sensor, there must be Bhavanga and then many mind doors. So what is taken all day is only through mind door, more than the other sensor. But it seems that there is what is seen all day, how rapidly it arises and falls away, only one at a time in a moment. So what we take for a moment In truth, they are more minor or sub or whatever you use. So very, very quick moment of arising and falling away, what we take for a moment. So a moment of seeing, see, how can it be object of understanding? But when it's the nimitta of seeing, there are chitta before it and absolute unknown. That's why only the nimitta of nama can be the object of understanding. No matter it is seeing, hearing, thinking, it's only that which experiences an object through different doorways, through different objects appearing in a day, like now. There's thinking, there's seeing and hearing, see. And only with that which is seen, it's right. Apart from that, it's so dark. In a dark room, one opens one's eyes, there can be the seeing of darkness. So what about the moment of mind or process? Darker than that. Because even that which is seen as dark is seen, but when it's not there at all, how dark it would be. And that is truth.
I think I can understand, because when I'm thinking about something far away from, say, here, it does seem like the seeing happening as well, even though I might be thinking about something else, because you mentioned it being dark. But it doesn't seem like it's dark. It seems like it's light all the time. And I wonder if that's why you seem to focus a lot on visible object, because it just seems to be there all of the time. Whereas touching, or even like, for example, I had a toothache, and that was part of my first question. It feels like there's pain all the time, but obviously there's not, because there's other jitters happening. And this mind door, so the mind door process following that sense door takes the pain as object, and it just hangs on to it. Is that how it works, to make it seem like it lasts a long time?
It seems like there's pain all time, right?
Yes, it does.
But it's staying all the time now, exactly the same.
Oh.
The truth is the truth. That's why the world, the object, does not appear well at all. Because the truth of it is not known as it is, but it is only the nimitta and shape and form and the details, nimitta and anupayanchana, all there. So is that true? That's why we learn to understand from the very beginning what is true. What is the truth of what is there right now? Otherwise, we live in the world of ignorance, not understanding what is there. It is not as thing which appears as leaf or rose or table or chair. That's why Buddha taught about each reality as it is, and taught about different levels of understanding. Right now, we're talking about seeing, but no moment of directly understanding the characteristics of seeing as no one and no thing. In truth, there is no one. That's why even hearing about the truth, it's not the moment of directly understand the nature of that which arises to experience what is there as what is seen. That's why we just learn and have confidence of the truth in order to let go wrong understanding, not for other thing at all, just to understand the truth, to let go ignorance and attachment. Because whatever arises, falls away instantly, no matter it's pleasant or unpleasant. That's why it's the way it is. Learn to understand the truth of samsara, not only this life, but eons and eons ago, and present in eons and eons ahead. With understanding or without understanding. And when it is the beginning of understanding, this is not enough, because we understand that what appears is not the way it is at all. That's why the way it is, the truth of it, can be studied from this very moment. It's there, already there, by conditions. So have confidence of whatever is there. It has a reason. No one has to do anything. It's impossible to make anything arise at all. But to understand what is there as its condition, just to be there, no matter one likes it or not. It's gone, unknown. That's why learning to understand the truth, to let go ignorance. It depends on whether there is interest to have less ignorance, or it doesn't matter at all. One just live and die. That's all the way it is. Some people think like that, but it's different. That's why for oneself, it can be known by oneself whether it's there, the moment of understanding, the precious moment of just understand. It has to be developed from hearing again and again and again until the truth appears little by little, stage by stage, to be what has learned is so true. It can be directly enlightened. The truth, not just hearing, thinking, because even now we heard a lot about everything is not permanent. No matter what is there, it's gone completely, never to arise again. It doesn't shake the idea of self to be less and less and gone at all, because it's not enough just by hearing the truth. It's like learning to cook, but no taste about the taste yet. Not that very moment yet. Just learn about what is there and what for, to taste it or just to make it and not taste it.
And so the idea of self is so strong. I mean, it seems to me that it's there all the time, like seeing. There's I see or I hear. Self is just there, seemingly all of the time. But obviously it's not, because when there is no self, but it really feels like a self.
Can it be directly known or experienced or realized? Since it's so true, even right now, no one can stop the way it is at all. Understand the truth is better than not understanding it. And understanding is not me or mine either. It is just a reality which understands the truth of that which now appearing. Only that it doesn't hurt. It keeps on daily life by conditions to have more confidence of the truth, that in truth there is no one and no thing. The world is the world of realities, different ones, arising and falling away. As long as there are conditions for its arise, it has to arise. That's all. To be such and such different moment in different day, from day to day. No one can make it arise at all.
And
No
when
matter
you
what,
say,
understand this or not, the way what life is has to be what it has been accumulated to condition such moment in life.
Azita, when you say the idea of self is there all the time, you mean the idea of oneself as an individual, or do you mean the idea of a permanent self?
The former, John. That, yeah, not the latter one, because I often say, but there's no self. What I was going to say to Ajahn is like, we're a bit tricked in that, no, we can't control anything, but it seems like we can get up and we'll go get a drink of water or go outside, because I've decided I'll go outside. So it seems like we can do these things, but I guess, well, it's hard to see the truth, put it that way. It's really difficult.
We've lost you now, Azita.
No, I'm back again. Yeah, it just seems like we can do stuff, but I guess that's where it comes in, where the understanding is it's not a self who can do these things. It's just these things are happening, and there is no self to do these things. But there must be something. And I guess in reality, it's Chetana just deciding to do something. Is that how it works? Why is it the reality of Chetana that I will do this and you do it? It must be more than just Chetana, though. It must be other Jeta seekers coming in, and because sometimes you might decide to do something and then suddenly I find myself doing something completely different, and it's like, well, hang on, what happened to that first decision? So
I think what is not under control are conditioned realities. So when it seems that in daily life there is this degree of control, that doesn't contradict the teaching that conditioned realities are beyond control. For example, it depends on past Dhamma, what is going to be seen or heard at the next moment. And the fact that certain things seem to be predictable, that, for example, we can turn on the radio and listen to music, doesn't contradict the teaching that conditioned realities as such are not subject to mastery. Because it's just the way we learn to live life in accordance with what is possible to be done. As an extreme example, we don't attempt to fly because we know that that would never happen. But in terms of getting around and day-to-day living, one has learned to accept what things are likely to happen and what are likely not to happen. That doesn't mean they will or won't. But when it comes to conditioned realities, there is no predicting what is going to arise next. It just so happens that often it is predictable. Not because we're in control, but because that's the way things are.
And sometimes I think, like you just mentioned, you never know what's going to happen next. And I sometimes say this to my daughters, well, you never know. And then I feel like sometimes I'm kidding myself because I just go ahead and become very predictable about what I do. And then because that's accumulations, isn't it?
Yeah, that's one's experience in life also.
Right.
That at such a time in the morning it'll be light, and then at such a time in the evening it'll get dark. So it's predictable as such, but doesn't mean that there's control over conditioned realities arising and falling away.
And when planning, it's not just Chaitanya, but so many other Chaitasikas, Vitaka and Chanda, what there's an interest in, and Ekagata and Pasa, what object is touch, for there to be thinking about so many different realities, each one conditioned, each one unknown, no one who can do anything.
But there is the appearance of a degree of control over one's life. That's just the way it is in samsara for most people. For some it's not, but anyway. But when we think of anicca, dukkha, anatta, it has to be in terms of conditioned realities, not conventional life and experience of the world in the conventional sense.
Whilst we think in terms of the conventional world and the situations, it seems like I can decide, I can do. But in truth, at this moment, there are just these different realities like the Chaitanya, the Vitaka, the seeing, the hearing, and each one is conditioned and unpredictable, like attachment now. Who knows at this moment whether there'll be attachment or aversion arising after seeing and after hearing. So it seems like we can predict there will be pain in my tooth for half an hour, but actually at this moment, the moment of body consciousness, a painful feeling for a moment, and who can predict what the chittas will be afterwards, or whether there will be seeing or whether they'll be hearing or more bodily experience at the next moment. So the only way to understand about dharmas as anatta is to understand about the realities now. Otherwise, whilst thinking of a situation like the story of my toothache, impossible to understand dharmas as anatta.
And I can see the accumulations of joking. If we could say it, like, often when I'm with the granddaughters, I'll kid along with them and I'll make up little stories. And they'll often say to me, Nanny, you're lying. And it's like, well, and then I realized, because I was reading something that had come from Achan's book on Gepwai Nai Hatai. I think I've said that, to keep what's kept in the heart. And a lot of those sayings were translated into English. And one of them was about telling lies. And I've thought about this, but sometimes those little joking things that come out, even not necessarily with the little ones, but sometimes with adults. And I mean no harm, but it's just suddenly I realized, well, that's an untruth. And I'm taking it that because it's made in a joking manner that adults will get it, but sometimes the children don't. So it's been something that I've thought about over the last couple of weeks, I guess. And I think I must change this, but it's there before I even think about it again. It's come out.
There may not be an intention to deceive, though, if one's telling a joke.
It's
if
not
I say, have you heard the one about the guy who's such and such, and it's all made up, but everyone knows one's telling a joke, so there's no intention to deceive.
Sometimes I think I jokingly try to deceive the granddaughters, so they laugh.
Loba all day.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I think that's That's my comments for the moment. Thank you, everybody.
Roti, I just wanted to pick up the question Ajahn asked you, because I think it may not have been clear, or you may have misunderstood it when she said, I forget whether it was the bird or the snake have nimitta and panyati, and you said no, and she said, oh, of course. But it's like, actually, there's no bird, there's no snake, there's no Roti or Sarah in reality, but in this stream of consciousness that we refer to as Sarah or Roti, after the experiencing of realities, there's the experiencing of the impressions, the shape, the form, the sign of those realities, which conditions the thinking about ideas. And it's just the same in the life stream of the snake or the bird. No snake or bird in reality, but in that series of consciousness, after seeing and hearing, there is the experiencing of the impressions of what has been seen and heard countless times, countless arising and falling away in split seconds. And there is the thinking, not in words, but the thinking about what has been seen and heard, the thinking about the impressions, the shape, the form of what has been seen and heard, just like for us. So that was what was being meant.
So I understood that she asked me if there was nimitta in a bird. And, and as far as I understand, bird is just an idea, so there cannot be.
Right. I thought that's what you meant. It's like saying, is there nimitta in Roti, or does Roti have nimitta? Well, actually, there's no Roti, there's no bird, but she was just using the word bird conventionally to refer to the series of chittas. So in the life of the one that we call a bird.
Yeah, the concept.
In the series of the life that we call the bird, is there the experiencing of the shapes, the forms of the objects that have been experienced, and is there the thinking about those signs, those nimittas? And the answer is yes, exactly like there is now for us, even though in truth there's no us and there's no bird.
I don't understand what you mean by the series of the life.
So like now, in truth, there's no Roti, but there is the series of chittas, one after the other, that we conventionally refer to as Roti's life, which is different from Azita's life. So there are the moments of seeing, the moments of hearing, which are different from the seeing and the hearing in Azita's life. The thinking in your case about the restaurants in Mexico are different from the thinking in Azita's life, thinking about her grandchildren in Australia. So we refer to this life or that life, the bird's life or the snake's life. So different chittas, and no matter what life it is, whether it's the life of the bird or Azita's life or the life of the snake, after the seeing and hearing, there is the experiencing of the nimitta and the thinking about ideas, making known those nimitta as something or someone, not necessarily in words at all.
Right.
So when the bird's eye consciousness experiences visible object, for example, then it's followed by thinking about the visible object, the same as it is for us.
It's followed by nimitta first.
We're distinguishing between the nimitta, which appears by virtue of, say, the rapidity of the rising and falling away of the visible object. And so
but when the bird experiences seeing, then he knows nimitta, and then the thinking comes. Right?
You could say that, yeah. But
that's what I'm saying it in those terms because that's how Ajahn explained it today.
Right. But for us, as for the bird, the the actual sensed or consciousness experiences the reality as I understand it.
Yeah, but from that one seeing consciousness, there can no thinking can arise. You need various.
Right. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
So not so much he knows the nimitta or it knows the nimitta, but there is the experiencing of the nimitta. And because of the experiencing of the nimitta, it conditions the making known by concepts, like the bird knows that this is his nest and that is not his nest, and this is the food that is tasty and these are his chicks. So there is the thinking, the panyati, because of there has been the experiencing of the nimitta.
Right. He also thinks that those over there are his grand chicks, no?
With just as much attachment.
I mean, in the case of the bird being a sita.
So it doesn't matter which life it is, attachment is there all the way. And that was Ajahn's point, that it doesn't matter whether we're talking about the bird or the snake or the human, there's always the thinking about concepts, the making known, because there's been the experiencing of the nimitta, of the shape, the form, the color, the appearance, and so on. And that is only possible because there has been the experience by seeing of what is seen, of hearing of what is heard, and so on. So it's the same no matter what lifetime.
Right.
No matter whether there's teasing in words or not. Still Loba, still thinking of different ideas.
I thought that was very clever, Roti.
Well, Sarah made it very clear that I think about restaurants and you think about your grandchildren.
All by accumulations and different interests and different thinking. So many different realities involved in what is thought about at this very moment.
Actually, back to John, it was a saying from you, John, regarding telling the truth, and I'll read it out. A person who understands the danger of not telling the truth cannot be forced by circumstances or by any person to tell a lie. And I think it might have come from some of the excerpts from Vincent or from a discussion then. So yeah, I thought that was really, that followed on from my little note about deceiving the grandchildren, this bird deceiving the grandchildren.
But as Ajahn commented in that discussion, which is probably not in the part extracted by Vincent, the important thing is the understanding of the reality at the present moment. So if there is jokey talk and it's not 100% truthful in that sense, it doesn't really, for the person developing understanding, the important thing is whether there is the understanding of a characteristic of a reality at that time. And it doesn't have to be related to the consciousness or anything like that. It could be visible object, but one has to appreciate that we cannot expect to always, to never breach the precepts, for example, but to keep in mind that of primary importance is just the developing of understanding of the present moment. Although it's good, as of course, to consider these finer points of the precepts, because there can be conditions for improvement as such, but it's not the end of the world if the accumulations are so strong that the tendency still arises from time to time.
And it's always back to what appears now, because if there's no teasing or joking at this moment, this very moment, then the chitta, that kind of chitta can't be known. So it's always what appears now that can be understood or can be known. The attachment can only be known when it's apparent, when it appears.
Although for Azita, it's never far away, is it, Azita?
No, it's quite regular.
The little impish comment.
And thank you, bringing it right back to the present moment. Just if there's understanding at that moment, then that understanding knows whether it's gusala or agusala or meant to, yeah. So thank you. They're good reminders. Very important. Thank you.
It's like the painful feeling. We think about the painful feeling, but if there's no painful feeling now, its characteristic can't be known too. So it's always back to this moment. Or if there's no thinking about restaurants, then that kind of thinking can't be known. So it's always this moment now. Jan, I just wanted to mention that last week when we brought up the subject of Jerome's passing away, Nina W.'s husband, and I passed on the link to her, and she listened many times and found it very helpful. So she was very appreciative of the discussion. I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Kun Sarah. Shall we come back to the moment when Kun Ashita telling the story to her niece? Because even we don't talk about it, or we talk about it, there are different moments of different realities to be known when time comes. But when it's not that moment yet, we can talk or speak about anything. So I think that if your niece has a question about whether it's true or not, or are you telling a lie, it's time to help her to understand and to consider about the truth by herself, to begin to be a thoughtful person, to think about what it's heard as it is. So I think that there can be questions from your niece about the story, or if not, it's not telling a lie, but you can ask her whether can that be possible? Any story, bad conditions. Even she thinks that it's not true because it's just a tale or a story. But what is there about seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching? And we call it this person or this name or that name. Do you think that your niece can understand that?
Well, she's only 9, and it's actually my granddaughter, Achan. But yeah, that's a very good suggestion that I could bring up rather than joking along with them. Or if it does happen, I can then ask her, does she know what truth means?
And even has doubt about whether it's telling a lie or not, but your niece understand that it's a story, right?
Yes, she does. She does know I'm telling stories.
To understand that no matter what, there must be reality. So even she does not know that person at all, but hearing about someone or some story can be a moment of think about it as much as one can understand the truth. If it's about unwholesome manners, you can ask, is that there? Is it possible? How come? And so on. I think that it can be time to teach, or if not, it's time to help her to understand, to be a thoughtful person, to begin to think out by herself about what and what. So listen to the children is very good. because we can understand the children. Otherwise, if they do not talk at all, if they do not speak out, how can we understand her accumulation?
And after all, Sita, Wisaka was only 7.
Yes, she was.
Did you tell a lie, telling her the tale or the story?
Well, I think I was just joking, just a comment. I can't even remember what it was, because sometimes it's a lot in a day. If I'm with her, I'll just be joking along and maybe tell her there's a spider there when there isn't, or something like that. So I think your suggestions are very helpful. Maybe it will also help me, in the sense that I'm not trying to kid her, to deceive her, even if it is a joke.
Whether this story is true or not, is real one or not, and listen to her thought, her idea.
That's a very good idea, Achan. I will do that. Thank you.
I think that anytime we can do anything by conditions, but if we can help the children or anyone to think more about the truth of what should be known as it is, it's better than just telling her to do this or that. But ask her about the truth, about the reason, it's what is better, this or that, and so on. It doesn't need for children to listen to the tale at all. And at that moment, even it's joking, there can be a moment of understanding the truth of that very moment. So it depends on each accumulation, what is there already done by conditions. So it's not a lie, because you can ask her whether is this possible for such and such people in the story or in the tale. A big snake, see, is it possible? How come to be such bigger than the other snake? It can bring about some a little more understanding of the truth, but not in terms of the truth, but just to let the children think more in one's own idea and understanding, to lead her little by little to know what is better to know, to be known. At the end of the story, you can ask whether is it true or is this story possible, and so on, by what? If she likes, but if she has no interest, it's no use, just joke. But for yourself, you see that there can be any moment of understanding, because you know that it's a story. So how can it be a lie?
Thank you, Achan. That's a wonderful suggestion. I hadn't thought of that. I mean, I think
Tell that needs more, because you do not tell a lie, you just tell a story.
Ajahn, are you suggesting then that if you were telling a lie, it's something you know is an untruth, and telling it for whatever reason, I don't know, to save face yourself or to hurt a person some way, and yet telling a story is knowingly telling a story for someone's enjoyment. In the case of most children, it's for their enjoyment, but not meant to deceive or not meant to cause harm in any way?
Yes, because you see that who does not tell a lie forever, never lie. And
Dhamma will never tell a lie.
Yeah.
but when you are telling story, the listener knows that it's a story, so it's not a lie. That's why what is lie is known by oneself only. And I think that we don't have to tell anything to anyone because less. That's why not telling what that you don't want is not a lie too.
I'm sorry, John, that the last couple of sentences you said broke up. Can you repeat that, please?
When we don't want to something to anyone, you don't want to tell, it doesn't mean that it's a lie because it's not necessary to tell everyone to hear everything. Right?
Right.
Useless. That's why we talk about what's useful.
Mm-hmm. The one that keeps going through my mind as we sit here, for me, the day after Christmas, is the story that those of us, in the Western world were brought up with about Santa Claus. And whether that's, it's a story. It's clearly a story, but little children don't know that. Little children like to believe. I don't know. It's not something I don't think is ever told to deceive children or to hurt them for the purpose of hurting them. But how do we treat that one?
I think that for children to learn, to understand their different lives, even the snake's life, or fairy lives, or whatever, we had explanation when we asked the children or the niece about a fairy. Is it possible, comparing to life in this world by conditions, how people live life, and so on? Little by little, not depending on interest. And that's not a lie, it's useful words.
Right. Again, I'm sorry, John, it broke up just a little bit.
Because when we tell a tale to children, they know it's not the present moment, right? But we talk about something, and if she or they have any question, they can ask, and the answer is there for them to think about it, whether it's possible or like a fairy. Is it possible? Is there fairy? Is there heaven? And so on.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I see, because we're constantly telling little stories to children about animals and, the life of animals and that kind of thing. We're often giving animals human characteristics and human lives in stories we tell children, and don't see that as being harmful, and certainly not told with the intention of it being harmful or deceitful.
And the moment of talking about greedy or hatred and so on, whether it's useful or not, whether it's wholesome and so on. Really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can always take those lessons from it and talk about that. Yeah.
The best thing is to have the other think by themselves, consider by themselves.
Okay.
And I think, Anne, your question about telling children about Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny or whatever it is, of course, it all depends on the chitta of the person at the time.
Mm.
It's not necessarily a lie or not a lie. So I don't think we can generalize, but
yeah, that's
It
Yes,
might
you're
just
right,
be
you're
part
right.
of the telling a story kind of
That's right.
statement
Yeah.
of what kids want to hear, or maybe
Mhm.
they've heard it from someone else anyway. And so it's
Mhm.
just maintaining the charade,
The
not
cultural norm.
necessarily, you know,
Yes.
they'll
right,
find out
right.
sooner or later, but
Exactly.
Well, but probably the important question is not if it is a lie or not, but that if it is harmful or not.
Yes. Yeah.
It's definitely frivolous talk. I mean, there's
Yes.
nothing gusler about it for a start. So it doesn't matter a whole lot whether it's just frivolous talk or whether it's telling a lie. But
Right.
it will depend on the individual situation.
He's telling it. That's right.
But
Well,
for
it's
oneself, I think Ajahn is bringing us back to the present moment, because similar kind of circumstances can arise in our daily life now. And I guess it's possible to come to know when there's an intention to deceive and when there's just carrying on a jokey kind of relationship and facade.
Well, it's
charade.
definitely telling something that is not true. I don't know if that's the definition of lie or not.
Well, there are several elements to the akusala kamma that is telling a lie. So one of the elements is that it's not true, but it also has to be an intention to deceive, as I recall. So not every causing death constitutes taking a life.
So, but what about the paramita of truthfulness in that case?
I think, if I can make a comment here, that in the Rahulavada Ambalattika Sutta, the Buddha made it very clear to Rahula. Apparently, he had been, according to commentary, he had been misleading people who had been coming to Jetavana and pointing them in the wrong direction as to where the Buddha was. And he made it clear that, to avoid lying at any cost, and even in jest, he used that word, even in jest. So while our accumulations take us down a certain path, I think, I've heard that the Bodhisattva, while he may have killed even during his journey towards becoming Samma Sambuddha, he never told a lie. And that would make sense to me because he was seeking truth. And I think, without sounding overly precious, I do think that truth is something that is precious. And although, and I have heard Jonathan speaking there a little about, it depends on, there are 4 conditions, I believe, for lying, 4 conditions. There is a lie, it's a lie, and the lie has to be different from a story. There is intention to deceive, and the other person has to believe it. So unless those factors are fulfilled, it's not strictly speaking lying, but if it's a story told in jest, that's another matter. That will be dependent on our accumulations, no doubt. But the Buddha did say that even speaking in jest, that which is not true, is to be avoided. So, I think that's useful to bear in mind when it comes to this matter. And as someone spoke about earlier on, it is no doubt it's frivolous talk, some papalapa. There's no question about that. And there's so much of that usually in our life anyway. As Sarah talked about lopa, it's very common in our life. But I do think we need to be really careful about what is truth and what is not. And Tanajan often speaks about satyabarami, it's paying attention to what is true. And I do think paying attention to what is true, while it relates to the present moment also, I think that adherence to, by accumulations and by conditions, that tendency to respect truth and at any level, I think is always respecting truth at any level is always very valuable.
Ajahn, hello.
Yes, Miss.
I've been listening on my phone and I've only just been able to come onto Zoom. But I wanted to actually ask a question about hardness. And I think it was Zita, you prompted me thinking about, how many conditions there are for the idea of myself seeing or experiencing arise in a day. And with hardness, it seems that it's quite different. It's quite different to seeing, because it's so, because we live in relationship to gravity, whether we're standing or sitting or lying down or whatever we do, there is some degree of hardness arising. But it doesn't seem to take the same with visible object, we're thinking in terms of shape and form, and then constructing something out of that with the thinking that follows. But with hardness, because it's largely around pressure and temperature, the something that we construct still contributes to the idea of self, I suppose, by way of something that is solid. So the thinking takes the experience of hardness and turns it into something solid, like, the body, the chair, the floor, the earth, the whatever. And yet that experience is not actually referred to very much. Well, we don't talk about it that often. And I just wondered why that was, and how we could maybe see more clearly how the arising and falling away of hardness really contributes to that sense of self. I'm sorry, John, it's a bit of a muddled question. As usual. Maybe you can sort me out, Ajahn.
Yeah. Touch is a way to touch a tooth. What is it? It's hard, right? And it's a tooth too. And my tooth too. Is it right? Just hard to say. It's take for a tooth touch, then it's my tooth, right?
Yes.
Yes. And when you your arm, tooth, it's still my arm or my softness, and no idea about softness at all of my arm instead. That's right. Hardness, softness is taken for something me or mine. Instantly, as object, what is seen, it else see, it's hard by memory because it's not hard at all, but it's there as something hard. It's mine all the time. even we don't see. So as soon as arrive to experience there, and no one, nothing is me, experiencing is me. Right now, I see, I hear, I think, but in truth, with period object.
John, sorry to interrupt you, but your voice is breaking up and we're missing quite a bit of what you're saying. I don't know if you can speak more, be closer to the microphone, or I don't know what the problem is.
It of the way there, but speak. Can you hear me now?
No, it's still breaking up quite a lot, Ajahn.
Let's see.
Sorry.
คุณวรศักดิ์คะคุณวรศักดิ์อยู่ไหน
Right now it's clear, Ajahn. Now that you call Kun Wurasak, it sounds very clear.
Sometimes it helps to those that aren't speaking. If you turn your mics off, just see if that works. So if you've got your mic on, can you turn it off, please?
It may look as though my mic is on all the time, but it's not so because I'm using an extension microphone, so it'll show as being on all the time, but
yes, I know you and Sarah that happens, but I see Sundar has got his mic on, and Maeve, when you're not talking, just turn your mic off, please.
I think it was just because I was talking with Ajahn, and I'm thinking she'll come back, but I'll do that in the meantime. Yeah.
Okay. And Sundara, could you please turn yours off?
But Zita, I don't think that's the problem, because I mean, if that's not the problem, then it's unnecessary sometimes to switch off, for some people to switch off the mic. And I think it's something else. Ajahn is not using the Zoom the way we're using it. And it's a different thing. It's a different problem.
Even so, it is a good reminder that Azita gave, because it picks up all the microphone and noises in the background when people leave them on. So I think it's a good reminder. Yeah. Ajahn, would you like to try speaking again?
Yes, but ask the quick. What's the question again? What is the question or what we are talking about, please? Again.
Maeve's question about experiencing hardness and thinking of self a lot in connection with the hardness that we take for the body and so forth.
Is it not the same as other, the vara, seeing, hearing, softness of that which is seen or heard?
You need to turn your mic on, Maeve.
Yes. Yes, Ajahn. It absolutely is. I think my question was around why it is not used as an example, given how pervasive that is, the experience of hardness and softness, but it is not often used as an example in the teachings, whereas the visible object is frequently used.
Because it's there now, all the time, it seems. If we don't talk about it, there must be the clinging to that which experiences, which sees, as I see. That's why even hearing a lot about the truth of seeing and the object which is seen is not enough at all. include everything which is conditioned to arise. Whatever arises falls away instantly, no matter what, no matter citta, cetasika, or rupa. See, no matter what is what, different from that which has no conditions for it to arise at all. Whatever now has arisen, it cannot be changed. It's hard, so it cannot be changed to sound, to be sound or sweetness or whatever. Just condition to be hardness, that's all. But there's no understanding of the truth. That's why we take everything, especially the reality which arises to experience. At that very moment, there's no one and no thing. But since there's no understanding, ignorance of that object takes it for I see instantly, because it experiences an object. So the moment of experiencing anything, it's not I, it's not anyone, it's only that which arises to experience, but it's not known as it is. Ignorance, not understanding that it's there by conditions and it's not there anymore. Not understanding the truth condition the idea of I and things and people, depending on the characteristic of that which is experienced. For seeing, for example, there can be my nail, or there can be the table, whatever is there. It's known by Nimita. And when it's known as something, it is Panyati, Atta Panyati. No word, but the understanding, taking it for something is there. Make it known as different ones from chair and table and things.
Yes, I can see a time where the tendency to, I suppose, translate all experience into me, mine, something is so very strong. And it's interesting that I suppose when I found myself thinking about hardness, it was like, oh, there's a lot of that. And but it's the same thing as you say. It's not so much the frequency; it's the understanding that arises as well when it arises. The frequency will not guarantee understanding without
that
the
no
idea of panya
arise at all. When it's moment of thinking about hardness, not as self, it's by condition.
Yes.
But what about the other thing? Right understanding, understand it. No matter what, it has to be known as it is. Like hardness is not me, or it's not such and such thing at all. Exactly the same, little by little, as there is the understanding of hardness and that which experiences hardness, there can be furthermore understanding sound and that which experiences sound, and so on, to understand the distinction between that which arises to experience and that which is conditioned to arise but cannot experience. This is the world, no matter what world, deva or human being or animal kingdom and so on. Nobody can change the truth at all, but it can be known little by little. And when we talk more and learn more about it, it can condition moment of understanding what is there, no matter at the level of thinking about it, or no matter when there is doubt about it, but the understanding that what is there is so true and that it can be understood little by little until it reveals itself as it is little by little, which means that there's less intention to the object which follows that object. And when there's clear understanding of one reality, it means that it let go attachment to the other. That's why learn to understand different ones, because when there is the understanding of a reality, there can be moment of other reality to arise and appear, and there can be a little more understanding of the different ones as no one and nothing. Little by little, right understanding develops by itself. And it works now unknowingly, no matter what citta and cetasikas, but learning about one characteristic of a reality can condition the letting go of the idea of taking it for self. Very, very little, but it works, because without just only a moment of understanding, how can there be more understanding? That's why each moment of understanding is so very, very precious, because it can lead to more understanding, more interest to understand the truth. That's why we learn how many cittas are there and how many cetasikas are there, and what are the Potipakkhaya Dhamma, the factors of enlightenment. For example, interest, chanda. Someone has no interest to understand the truth, but the one who listens has the idea or the thinking of it so very precious to understand, rather than no understanding of that which is now appearing at all, and learn little by little. And then that is the way right understanding develops in its own way, together with other factors. No one can do anything. Whatever is there, when sati is there, it knows that that has condition to arise. Right now.
Yes, Ajahn, it does seem to become a little clearer that, and it was probably why that question was so muddled, that any attempt to unravel the truth that you're talking about intellectually, and I don't mean through study, but just through trying to apply conventional logic, etc., just really doesn't work. And and so to listen, it seems that the listening in itself really is such an important condition for a different kind of understanding to what we're used to arise. And I know you say this very often, but you know, it probably needs to be heard innumerable times. But it gradually becomes clearer that it's like not just hearing how we think things, the world works, and how we can use our conventional way of thinking about things and working things out. That doesn't apply in terms of the development of understanding that you're talking about. And it's and it makes sense as to why it's so important that patience is there, and interest, and all the other factors that you refer to.
It indicates that the confidence is not firm enough. See, forgetting about anatta, conditions such and such manners to think, to try to understand.
Yes.
It is the avijja and attachment, lopa, the second noble truth.
Yes.
That's why when there is not enough understanding of the first noble truth and the second noble truth, how can the second noble truth be eliminated? Impossible. That's why it let go, no matter how long will it take to understand the truth, which is now quite different from the way it appears. That's why the Buddha said after his enlightenment, Dhamma is so very subtle, and Dhamma is everything, including the Four Noble Truths. The path is so very subtle, because usually there is the very strong accumulation of I and things, but learning to understand the way it is, not as it appears at all. And only right understanding can begin to understand each one. Otherwise, they are all together as before. So how can it appear well as it's just very short and it is different from the other? Seeing is not hearing, is not thinking, like something all day can be known by conditions, not by our trying to have the understanding of such and such object. Impossible. So that reality right now can show up as suddenly, instantly. No one can make it arise at all because it has condition to arise already to be known now. So the right understanding from hearing again and again, understand what is right and what is wrong. So what you said is the beginning of understanding the right path. And at that moment, right understanding, which hasn't arisen before, can begin to arise, to be conditioned by considering again and again, to be confidence of the truth. And the confidence of the truth, Satya Barami and Adidana Barami, cannot lead you to the wrong way anymore. That's why only Panya can understand the moment of Lopa. It's there. That's the only way, not to follow it to different ways, not the right way at all. Little by little, the function of Panya, it is developed little by little. It develops at moment when it arises now. So understanding the truth now, let go the wrong understanding, which will try to make anything to arise, like right understanding. Usually, people would like to have right understanding. See, Lopa is there. So when the understanding of the truth of reality is not enough, nothing can let go. The strong attachment to the self and to things. Only way is the understanding and leave it to understanding itself to develop. Because even that moment is gone, but it can condition the other moment of a little more understanding, little by little.
Thank you, Ajahn. And Ajahn, may I just take this opportunity as we head towards the end of the year to just thank you really from my heart for your generosity and kindness and for being so consistent in teaching us all over these past 2 years, over these difficult years. It's these sessions are such a bright spot in a often dark world. So thank you very, very much.
I appreciate very pleasant feeling for your understanding, for anyone's understanding of the truth, and keep on developing confidence of the truth.
Yes, thank you, Ajahn. I say the same as me. Appreciate it very much.
Yes, Ajahn.
Yes.
It's been wonderful. It's really
and best wishes to everyone for for wisdom and all that is good in the new year too.
It's really been wonderful knowing that weekly and more than weekly, first, depending on how much we can listen to, that we can put aside the time and have such valuable discussions. I found it's made a big difference. And
I was only thinking the same thing, and the other day in one of the sessions, I think someone was saying how difficult it was to find people to talk Dhamma to in one's daily life. And well, there was a time when you actually had to be in Thailand in order to find anyone to talk to about Dhamma. But and then of course it got a bit, within the digital age it came a bit easier, but just recently with Zoom, it's just made such an incredible difference, hasn't it?
It has. It's wonderful.
Yeah, thanks for those words, May. And yeah, certainly, Tanajan Kap, Kopkumak Kap.
And it's only Panya that can understand the truth. The more there is the understanding, the more closer to understand it. The reality is so very, very subtle because it's here and now, but it can be directly experienced when time comes, at moment of letting go by understanding more and more. And understanding the depth, the profoundness of the truth, let go the idea of self, who would like to have anything, even right understanding. สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีครับท่านอาจารย์ Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye
bye.
ที่ครับ
สวัสดีค่ะท่านอาจารย์
Is there a discussion?
Thinking next week?
No, I mean on